Have you ever heard a story that makes your heart stop for a second, only to restart with a flood of emotion you never forget? Well, today's story is one of those. It's about an ordinary man in dusty janitor's clothes who carried the weight of a broken past, but one night, in the middle of fire and smoke, he became a hero. And the words he heard from a little girl he saved changed his life forever. Before we dive deep into this unforgettable journey, I want you to pause for a second, because what you're about to hear deserves to be shared with the world. So if you believe in hope, if you believe in second chances, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Timeless Voices so more souls can be touched by stories just like this. Now, let's begin. Ethan Cole had never been the man people noticed. At 42, his life was reduced to mopping school hallways at night, scrubbing toilets, and making sure classrooms were ready for children he could never afford to send to private schools. His janitor uniform smelled of bleach, and his calloused hands carried the quiet ache of years of labor. But there was one reason he kept going: his 9-year-old son, Mason. Mason was everything. Ethan had lost his wife in a car accident when Mason was just 3, and since then, he had been mother and father, breadwinner and bedtime storyteller, everything and everyone Mason needed. They lived in a cramped apartment on the rough side of town. Dinner was often mac and cheese, sometimes canned soup, but Mason's laughter filled the small space like sunlight breaking through gray skies. For Ethan, that laughter was worth more than any paycheck he would ever take home. But deep inside, Ethan felt the sting of invisibility. Teachers passed him in the hallway without recognition. Parents barely glanced at him. To them, he was just the janitor. Nothing more. And yet, fate has a way of setting fire to ordinary lives in extraordinary ways. It happened on a cold November evening. Ethan was finishing a double shift at the elementary school. His back ached, and his hands smelled of disinfectant. He glanced at the clock, 9:37 p.m. Mason would already be asleep, and guilt pinched his chest for missing another bedtime story. He sighed, locked up the supply closet, and stepped outside into the night air. His old truck coughed as he turned the ignition. He drove down Maple Street, headlights cutting through the mist. That's when he saw it. A car swerved across the road, smashed into a lamppost, and within seconds, flames erupted under the hood. Time slowed. Ethan's hands tightened around the steering wheel. He slammed the brakes. His truck screeched to a halt. Inside the car, a girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, strapped in the backseat, pounding her small fists against the window. Her screams pierced the night. Ethan's heart dropped. He didn't think. He didn't measure his worth, his insignificance, his title of janitor. He only knew a child was about to die. He ran. Heat hit his face like an open furnace. Smoke clawed at his lungs. The girl's terrified eyes locked onto his. She was crying, choking, begging without words. "Hold on," Ethan roared, though his voice cracked. He yanked on the back door. Locked. Flames hissed louder. The hood popped with a violent burst. He ripped off his jacket, wrapped it around his hand, and punched the glass. Once, twice. The third time, the window shattered. Shards cut into his arm, but he didn't care. "Close your eyes, sweetheart," he shouted, reaching in. Her small hands clung to his like lifelines. He dragged her out, wrapping her trembling body in his arms. And then, boom, the front of the car exploded in fire, sending sparks into the sky. Ethan threw his body over the girl, shielding her. His back, seared with heat, but she was safe. She was alive. Sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors rushed out, phones recording, voices gasping. But Ethan only heard one thing: her soft sobs against his chest. When firefighters arrived, they pulled Ethan and the girl away from the burning wreckage. Paramedics checked her vitals. She was shaken, bruised, but breathing. Ethan sat on the curb, his arms scraped, shirt singed, hands bleeding. He didn't feel like a hero. He just felt tired. Then, she looked up at him. Her tear-streaked face was illuminated by the red-blue flicker of ambulance lights. She whispered, "You saved me." Ethan swallowed hard. "You're safe now, sweetheart. That's all that matters." But then, she said something that cracked open his soul. She reached for his hand, her tiny fingers wrapping around his bruised knuckles, and said, My daddy's in heaven. Tonight, I think he sent you. Ethan froze. Those words, they cut deeper than fire, deeper than pain. Because Mason had once said almost the same thing about his mother. Tears stung his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as just a janitor, but as someone who mattered, someone who could carry light into someone else's darkness. The firefighters patted his back. The crowd applauded. News reporters scribbled notes, but Ethan only heard her words echoing, I think he sent you. In the days that followed, the story spread. Single dad janitor saves girl from burning car. Headlines ran across local newspapers, social media exploded, neighbors who once ignored him now shook his hand. But none of that fame mattered. What mattered was Mason. When Ethan came home that night, covered in bandages, Mason ran into his arms. Dad, they said you saved a girl. Is it true? Ethan hugged him tight, smelling the faint trace of soap and crayons in his son's hair. Yeah, buddy, I just did what anyone would do. But Mason pulled back, eyes wide. Not anyone. You're my hero. And for Ethan, that was enough. Life didn't magically change overnight. He still mopped floors. He still lived in the same apartment. But something inside him shifted. Every time he picked up a mop, he remembered the little girl's words. Every time he tucked Mason into bed, he remembered that heroes weren't born in suits or capes. They were born in broken men who chose to act when others froze. Months later, Ethan got a letter in the mail. It was from the girl's mother. She wrote, "You didn't just save my daughter. You saved me, too. Because of you, I still have my little girl. I don't care if the world calls you a janitor. To us, you'll always be the man heaven sent." Ethan folded that letter and tucked it into his wallet. He carried it everywhere, a reminder that no matter how the world labeled him, his life had purpose. And every time life grew heavy, he'd pull it out, read those words, and remember the night fire tried to destroy everything but ended up igniting a new flame inside him. And now, dear listener, remember this: greatness often hides in the people we overlook. The janitor, the bus driver, the single parent working 2 jobs, within them are stories of courage waiting to be told. So if this story touched your heart, if you believe unsung heroes deserve to be remembered, please hit that like button and subscribe to Timeless Voices. Because together, we can keep these voices alive.